Okay, everyone, we do have a quorum, and it is, according to my clock, 7 o'clock. So we will convene the Town of Dartmouth Conservation Commission meeting for Tuesday, January 24th. And due to the rollback of the COVID emergency order on June 15, 2021, and the enacting of legislation on June 15, 2021, which Governor Baker signed on June 16, 2021, and further extended by executive order on March 12, 2022 until July 15, 2022, and then further extended on July 16, 2022 until March 1, 2023. This hearing is held remotely. There will be the ability for the public to access or be involved in the meeting. There's a raise your hand feature at the bottom of the screen, and also waving your hand will certainly get you recognized, I hope. And once recognized, you'll be given an opportunity to speak. Please, those who are coming on board, if you would please keep yourself muted until you're recognized. That would really help us with the ambient noise. First administrative matter is to approve the minutes of the December 2022 public meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Seconded motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing no opposition, that motion passes unanimously. The next administrative item is to approve the field trip reports of the January 10, 2023 public meeting.
So moved.
Second.
The seconded motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing no opposition, that motion passes unanimously. And the third administrative item is to receive the minutes of the January 9 and the January 10, 2023 meetings.
So moved.
Second.
Seconded motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing no opposition, that motion passes unanimously. And we're now going to our first field trip report. It's a request for determination of applicability from Stephen Schmill, who is requesting a revalidation of the delineated wetland boundary and additional plantings. It's on land described as map 123, lot 167. It's otherwise known as 48 William Street. Mark.
Staff is recommending a positive determination of applicability here, as we agree completely with the delineation in the field and reaffirm the delineation that had been done several years ago. In addition to that, the applicant has offered some enhancement plantings in the wetland. I sent a copy of a plan, and also in discussions with the applicant, we've also discussed adding some wetland seed mix into the area to further enhance the wetland. So the staff is completely in support of this this request. Positive determination with conditions referencing the plan of record and the herbaceous plantings.
Any commissioner have any questions?
Oh, excuse me, there is also part of this. There is a dead tree which endangers the residents. It has been dead for a long time, and we are also supporting them removing it, but not stumping it. All the work will be done by hand.
Okay, so we have a staff recommendation. Do any commissioners have any questions? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion.
Make a motion for a positive determination.
Second.
Positive, a seconded motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing no opposition, that motion passes unanimously. Our second field trip report is also a request for determination of applicability from the trustees of the Earl W. Cooper Revocable Trust. Karen Haskell is the trustee. They're requesting the revalidation of the delineated wetland line on land described as map 45, lot 31. It's on Chase Road. Mark, what's staff recommendation on this?
Adam went out, inspected the line. He's very comfortable with it. So we are recommending, again, a positive determination to affirm the line in the field, which is actually a reaffirmation of an older wetland delineation.
Mark, do any commissioners here have a question of Mark? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion on this request.
Make a motion for a positive determination.
Do we have a
Second.
second? We have a seconded motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing no opposition, that motion passes unanimously. The third field trip report is a request for a certificate of compliance on DEP file 15-2389. It's from Leela Texera for work at map 144 lot 50. It's otherwise known as 98 McCabe Street. Mark, staff's recommendation on this request.
Yes, we're recommending a complete COC for file number 15-2389 with condition. We did have a minor violation out there about a year ago. They were stacking debris very close to a wetland. And the debris pile was getting a little large. We asked them to gather it up. They did. They removed a lot of it. And I'm just going to stick a condition in reminding them that the findings of the letter, the violation letter, it was March of 2022, are still in effect, and their storage of equipment can only reside behind a chain link fence next to their shed.
Fair enough. Any questions from any commissioner? Seeing none, commissioners, what's your pleasure on this request?
Make a motion to grant the certificate of compliance with the conditions described by Mr. Garrett.
We have a
Second.
motion, a second to the motion. All in
Second.
favor?
Aye.
Aye.
No opposition being heard, that motion passes unanimously. The fourth field trip report is a request for certificate of compliance on DEP file 15-2488 from Rebecca Wisman for work at map 56 lot 7. It's otherwise known as 245 Cross Road. Mark, what's staff's recommendation for this?
Yeah, this is, we need to reference that a little bit. This is the right-of-way work that Eversource had been doing over the past several years. Kept us very much in the loop on what they're doing. We've done several site inspections, and the work has always been in accordance with what we approved way back when. Again, doing a quick citing of this, the work is in compliance, and we are recommending a complete certificate of compliance. File number 15-2488.
Thank you, Mark. Any questions from the commission? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion. What's your pleasure?
Make a motion for a complete certificate of compliance for DEP file number 15-2488.
We have a motion. We have a second.
Second.
A seconded motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? No opposition being seen or heard. That motion passes unanimously. The fifth field trip report is a request for certificate of compliance on DEP file 15-2510 from Jason and Giselle Hutchins for the dock pier on land described as map 19 lot 107. It's on Smith Neck Road. Mark, what's staff's recommendation on this request?
I gotta give the commission a little bit of backstory on this so they understand the context. We briefly discussed this a couple of weeks ago. Back last March, Mr. Hutchins requested a COC for the dock project. And the dock was fine, it was approvable. However, Mr. Hutchins took it upon himself to add plantings along Smith Neck Road, a hedgerow line, which garnered some complaints by some neighbors, was inconsistent with the plan of record. And some of those hedges were in fact on his property. Some of those hedges were located in the street right of way of Smith Neck Road, which gets really close to the seawall that he constructed on his property. And at that point, we indicated that we could not approve the COC because the on-the-ground conditions were inconsistent with the plan of record. And I believe the chairman voiced concern of approving anything that was on somebody's property that was not a party to the notice of intent, which is in fact accurate. So we left it to them to go to the select board, who are the owners of the street right away, to get their permission to see if the hedges could remain change, a project change. They never did go to the select board. They asked several times what the problem was, and I said, we haven't gotten an authorization to move forward on this from the other property owner. Well, that lasted through December 23rd. And on December 23rd, we had that pre-Christmas Eve storm, which removed 60% of the hedges, leaving a damaged remaining percentage. And Mr. Hutchins decided to pull those hedges, called me up and said, what do I have to do to replant the hedges? And I said, you got to file a notice of intent. And I said, you can't file a notice of intent until you get a certificate of compliance, which you can now request and we could now issue because the hedges are no more. They're all gone. So having said all that, I am prepared to recommend a certificate of compliance now because the plantings are no longer there and the site conditions are in compliance with the plan of record. However, we would stipulate that a condition be added to the certificate of compliance that any additional work in the area, plantings, I know they're talking about some beach nourishment, will require further filings. So our recommendation at this point is with a condition to issue a complete certificate of compliance.
Thank you. Any questions, the commission? Seeing none, commissioners, what's your pleasure on this request?
Make a motion for certificate of compliance for DEP file number 15-2510 with the additional conditions described by Mr. Garrett concerning any future work.
Second.
You have a seconded motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing and seeing none, that motion passes unanimously. We're moving on now to our public hearings, and I would have to recuse myself from the first public hearing. Kelly, please take over.
Sure. Patty, I was gonna do this one if that's okay
Yeah,
with you.
you go right ahead. You're up.
We had talked about it.
Thank
We had
you,
talked about
thank
it
you.
before you joined. We weren't
No,
sure.
no,
you were gonna
no,
make
it's
it.
perfect. Thank you.
All right. So public hearing number 1 is continued public hearing DEP file 15-2549 from Vermet Development LLC, who's requesting proposing an amendment to the order of conditions to construct a single family dwelling with garage and associated grading and utilities within the 100-foot buffer zone to a bordering vegetated wetland. With the revised change of model and shape of the house, it will require a change in the limit of work within the 100-foot buffer zone. This land is described as map 128, portion of lots 14-6 and 14-7 off of Avis Street. Could I get a motion to waive the reading?
So moved.
So moved.
Second.
We have a second motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Hearing none, that motion passes unanimously. Mark, could we get your comments on this, please?
I think Steve Giosa is here and he's representing the applicant making the request.
Gotcha. I didn't see Steve.
So he goes first.
Go ahead, Steve.
Okay, for the record, Steve Giosa with Civil and Environmental Consultants representing Vermet Development this evening. If I may share my screen and we can bring the commission up to speed on what has occurred since the last presentation on this project.
Absolutely.
So this is a parcel of land located off the extension of Avis Street. Avis Street is a town road that originates on Elm Street, then traverses to the east and dead ends at the subject property. This lot happens to be lot 2 within development. There were 3 lots created under the estate open space regulations for the town. So there's an open space parcel that surrounds the lots, and there were 3 lots created on a common driveway. This is the middle of the 3 lots, and it was the subject of a notice of intent and subsequent order of conditions issued for the project. Slightly different building footprint than what is proposed today, but it is still a buffer zone project. So for the site itself, we have a proposed single-family home, connection to water and sewer, which have been installed in a common driveway easement area on the west side of the property. Ava Street for orientation is off the drawing here to the south. And then lot 1 exists here. No development has occurred on lot 1 at this time. Lot 3 is here. No work has occurred on lot 3 at this time. And the proposal would be to construct a single-family house, an attached garage, grading with a walkout basement, erosion control on the down gradient side of the construction area, and then the bordering vegetated wetland located just on the lower or the eastern edge of the subject property. So again, it is a buffer zone application. Now, when the original order of conditions was issued, the commission conditioned that approval on upgrading and inspecting the replication area that was completed probably back in 2017, 2018 by the prior developer of this site, Bruce Poor. Mr. Poor had done the initial replication work. Mr. Vermette then acquired the entire project, including the responsibilities for completing that replication area. One of the conditions on the original order of conditions did require Mr. Vermette to complete through a qualified wetland specialist inspection of the replication area, and then in all likelihood have to propose remedial work that would be needed to bring that replication area into compliance with the approved plan. And that replication, although not specific to this lot, was associated with creating the common driveway that you see here on the west side of the property across a band of wetlands with replication proposed. After we filed this application for an amendment, Mr. Garrett was very clear that we would not be proceeding until that condition had been met. We did speak to Mr. Vermette. He retained the services of Christopher Capone to go out, take a look at the replication area. Chris did go out there, and I think he concurs with Mark's opinion that the replication area is weak at best as far as compliance with the original order and the original planting scheme. Chris is recommending that in the spring, when we are approaching the end of winter and beginning of spring, that there would be a need to do some regrading as well as additional plantings to bring the project and bring the replication into compliance with the original roadway order of conditions. So we would be looking to see if the commission would agree to set a particular schedule for that as part of this project. The applicant, I would suggest, would be obligated to do this work early spring so that we catch the entire spring growing season with the new plantings, the plantings being completed prior to the growing season really hitting its stride. And then obviously ongoing monitoring to make sure that the plants take and the area gets completely stabilized. What we have done is set bean poles markers surrounding the entire replication area. So the area has been mapped out in the field. It is ready for a contractor to go in. reestablish erosion control, and then complete the necessary remedial action on the replication area. Again, Chris was very adamant that the work completed to date has not resulted in an adequate restoration area, which I think was Mr. Garrett's opinion all along about this, going back probably to the original order of conditions being issued. So with that, I'll be happy to answer questions, and we'll defer to Mark and the commission as to how we might proceed with this particular project.
Thanks, Steve. Okay, Mark, now could I get your comments, please?
Sure. Steve is fairly accurate in what he has said. The applicant has built out the roadway in conformity with the 15/2024 file number in accordance with the plan of record produced by Prime Engineering at that time. To build that roadway, they had to fill approximately 3,000 square feet of BVW, which was permitted, with the proviso that there would be a 3,000 square foot restoration. 4.5 years has gone by. The road's in, it's paved. There's some drainage already in it, and the wetland has been marginally restored. Back in 2021, there was a second file number, 15/2549, which was the original order of conditions, which is being amended to being requested for amendment today for this particular lot. At that time, I identified what appeared to be the replication problem. We kind of went around in circles on it, and I stipulated that I wanted a wetland consultant hired by June 30th of 2021 to ascertain what had been done and what had not been done. That wetland consultant was finally retained late in the year 2022, some 18 months later. That would be Mr. Capone. Mr. Capone issued his report, which I completely support. His report basically supports my original contentions. We have had some issues with this applicant in the past, no reflection on the engineer representing them. And in my mind, they have not worked with us in terribly good faith. So based on this history, I have 3 recommendations to be made to the commission tonight. First of all, we're being asked to amend an order of conditions. And my response is, I'm not willing to recommend any amendment. I think that the applicant should request a withdrawal without prejudice of this amendment request, which would allow them to reapply in short order upon completion of the wetland restoration work that needs to be done. Should they not withdraw without prejudice, then I would recommend that the commission not approve the requested amendment, which would then place a 3-year delay on them coming back for this particular request. I believe that, or I am going to recommend that the commission place a cease and desist on all activities permitted under file numbers 15/2412 and 15/2549, exclusive of the wetland replication work as required to be completed in full conformance with the plan of record, that plan being the Prime 2017 plan of record for file number 2412, by May 19th of 2023. I appreciate Steve's offer to do this as early as possible, and that's great. The reality is the plans have to be ordered, the contractor has to be retained. We know what schedules have been recently for retaining contractors. So I'm willing to push this out until May 19th of 2023 to give them ample time to get all their ducks in order, so to speak, to complete the work. My third recommendation would be, following the receipt of a report of findings and an as-built plan from a qualified wetland consultant indicating that the wetland replication work has been completed in full conformance with the plan of record, under file number 2412. Then the commission may rescind the cease and desist orders and reconsider the refiling of the amended order under 2549 if the applicant withdraws without prejudice at this time. If he doesn't, then we're going to have to wait on it for 3 years. So those are my recommendations. I think that this commission and previous members of this commission have been extremely tolerant of this. It's kind of flown under the radar screen. Now there's a little activity and we have had very little leverage. At this point, the commission does have leverage. And I think we should exercise it to get what has been a 4.5-year delay in a wetland replication project completed in short order, given the fact that the roadway has been in place for quite some time and the fill has taken place over a previous history. That's what I have to say.
Thanks, Mark. Steve, did you want to add anything or address anything that Mark said?
Yes, I think that based on Mark's very forceful recommendation on behalf of the applicant, I would agree to a request to withdraw without prejudice. And I don't disagree with his proposed schedule for completing the restoration work. I would say though that, and I don't have the order of conditions for this lot in front of me, but I don't believe the condition was set to a particular date, but was set to prior to working on lot 2. But having said that, we don't have to argue that point because again, I don't have the order in front of me. I would again agree to withdraw without prejudice if the commission agreed, and the schedule for completing the restoration work is appropriate at this time.
Thank you, Steve. Commissioners, do you have any questions of Steve or Mark at this time?
I do, Kelly. What happens, Mark? I mean, we've been very patient with these folks, and I don't really have a lot of patience left. What happens when March 19th rolls around and the restoration hasn't been completed?
May 19th, you mean?
Yes, sorry, May 19th.
Well, we have further enforcement elements in front of us. I think one of the key elements here, and I was going to bring this up before you vote, is I think the leverage is in issuing the cease and desist on all activities on the 2 file numbers. They've got to sit and get this done before they can start working. Developers tend to like to be aggressive and they like to get their for-profit work done as quickly as possible, and then not-for-profit stuff kind of lays behind. Well, the not-for-profit is laid behind for 4.5 years. I think all of this works, and I trust Steve. Steve and I have worked together a long time, and I think it's appropriate to withdraw without prejudice. I think it's appropriate to issue the cease and desist on both file numbers, and that will motivate the applicant to do what they should do if they want to work on this project. If they don't, and May 19th comes along and it's not done, we revisit further enforcement. I mean, I don't think that's in anybody's interest, and I don't think Steve thinks it's in anybody's interest. So I think that's the best we can do right now. I cannot predict what will happen, in June of 2023. Hopefully, I'm reading a monitoring report, on the planting and restoration, and we move forward. That's how I think it should go. And I think that's the place we are right now.
Thank you, Mark. I
Any
would
other?
agree, and I would agree with that.
Thanks, Patty. Do any other commissioners have any questions? Is there anyone in the audience who wishes to be heard on this application? Seeing none and hearing none, I would entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved. Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the public hearing is closed. And commissioners, what is your pleasure on this application?
Let's see if I can get this right. Um, Make a motion for standard order of conditions with the following additional conditions. One is to require the applicant to complete the restoration.
Madam Chair, if I could interrupt on a
Please do.
here, we're either, the first thing we're voting on is whether we agree with the request to withdraw without prejudice.
Okay,
There is no order of conditions.
okay, all right, okay.
Uh,
Maybe somebody
first-
else should do this.
Okay, let me outline what I've presented and you can agree or delete.
I'm probably not well enough to be doing this.
That's why I interrupted you.
I know, because you're good. I know.
The first thing is we vote on request for withdrawal without prejudice. The second thing is we vote on whether we issue cease and desist on all activities under 152412 and 152549 until the restoration is completed. And we then vote on a new date to complete the restoration by May 19th, 2023. I think those are the three things you're voting on. I'm not telling you how to vote. Those are my recommendations. Those are the things that are on the table. And those are the things I think give you the best or give us the best leverage to get to where we want to be and also get the applicant to where they want to be. They want to move on with this project.
Thanks, Mark. So I would entertain a motion to allow the withdrawal without prejudice of file number 15-2512.
Second.
No,
Or
so-
moved.
No, I'm
Chair.
entertaining it, so somebody's got to make it. I'm the chair. I can't make it.
I can second it though, can I?
Yeah,
No.
but somebody's got to make it.
Okay,
Thanks, Richard. Can I get a second on that motion?
second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, that motion passes unanimously. Now I would entertain a motion for a cease and desist on all activities permitted under file number 15-2412 and 15-2549.
except for the restoration work.
Sorry, except for the restoration work.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, that motion passes unanimously. And third, I would entertain a motion that all restoration work to be completed under file number 15-2549 be completed by May 19th, 2023.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Sorry.
Hearing none, that motion passes unanimously. And I think that was it, right, Mark?
That's it.
Very
Thanks,
good.
guys.
Thank you. Good night now.
Thanks, Steve.
Thanks, Steve. Night. Thanks, Steve.
Good night.
Is it safe to get back in the water?
And I think we've got enough for a quorum this evening. Is that correct?
That is correct, Patty.
So if it's okay with you all, I am going to go back to recovery mode.
I think that makes some sense.
All
Thank
Feel
right.
better, Patty.
Right, thanks. I'll see you in a couple weeks, I'm sure.
Get well soon.
Better.
Hope you're feeling better. Get well soon, Patty.
Bye.
And we still have a quorum for those of you wondering. So quorum normally would be 4, and we have an excess of that, so we still have a quorum. The second public hearing is continued public hearing on DEP file 15-2619. On the notice of intent from Christoph and Sylvia Westfall to construct a fixed pier, gangway, deck, or float with motorized lift and boat lift on land described as map 95, lot 11, otherwise known as 1 Madarast Lane. I'll entertain a motion to waive the reading.
So moved.
Second.
Okay.
We have a seconded motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? No opposition being heard. That motion passes unanimously. I understand there was a request made to withdraw. Is that right, Alan?
Yes.
Okay, so I will suggest that if anyone has any questions of the applicant, or if there's anyone in the audience that wants to be heard, they can be, and then we will entertain the motion, by motion, the request to withdraw without prejudice. Any commissioners have any questions? Anyone in the audience that wants to speak on this? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion to withdraw this application without prejudice.
So moved.
Second.
Seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? No opposition being heard. That motion passes unanimously. We're moving on now to the third public hearing. It's a continued public hearing on DEP file 15-2623. It's on the notice of intent from Marion and Jeffrey Webster to construct a fixed pier, gangway, deck or float, motorized and boat lift. It's on land described as map 129, lot 33. It's otherwise known as number 1 Redwood Street. Entertain a motion to waive the reading.
So moved.
Second.
We have a seconded motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, that motion passes unanimously. And on behalf of the applicant, Alan, you're up.
Okay, thank you. Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. For the record, my name is Alan Peru. If I could, I'd like to share my screen.
Absolutely.
Okay. For this continued public hearing, I'm here on behalf of Jeffrey and Marion Webster, who own a house lot at 1 Redwood Street and propose to construct a pier, gangway, and float or deck with motorized lift, boat lift, and swimming float. They also propose beach nourishment on the southerly side of an existing stone groin. The shoreline is armored with revetments, stone revetments, and groins. And I've put up on my screen the plan view of the waterways license plan, which I presented at the initial public hearing on December 6th. And it shows a 161-foot long pier off of the edge of a stone revetment that goes across the entire lot. And there's an existing stone groin at the northerly side of the lot. And we're proposing a gangway to a float or deck on a motorized lift, a boat lift, and a swimming float. And in this area on the southerly side of the stone groin, where naturally sediment will accrete, given that there's a northerly littoral current of sediment in this shoreline, we're proposing some beach nourishment right in this corner of the stone groin and the armored stone revetment. So this waterways license plan was presented previously and is dated October 15th, 2022. So since the initial hearing, just bring up one more thing. Okay. Since the initial hearing, we have responded positively to the comments from Steve Mello, the harbor master, and the Shellfish Constable regarding the coastal structures in a letter to the commission dated January 12th, 2023. And we have provided additional information regarding shoreline changes and Wave Energy and Coastal Processes in a letter to the commission dated January 17th, 2023. And then lastly, Craig D. Sams, PE, structural engineer, reviewed the waterways license plan dated October 15th, 2022, and provided a letter regarding the structural stability of the proposed pier dated January 23rd, 2023. And so the DEP file number is SE 15-2623. And if I could, I just wanted to show you, I went out to the site today, and this is a photograph looking southerly across the frontage of the property. And you can see there's an existing stone revetment in very good shape. And the middle photograph shows where the pier is proposed and where the beach nourishment is proposed. And as I said, in this shoreline, there's a northerly current generally with sediment traveling along the shore. So this existing stone groin traps the sediment, and we're looking to provide some beach nourishment in this area. And then the bottom photograph shows the shoreline to the north, which continues to be armored with a stone revetment. In the distance is another pier that I designed. And to the south, you can see there's solid fill piers extending out from the shoreline. So that's where we are today. And I'd be happy to answer any questions that the commission might have.
Thank you, Alan. Mark, I would be interested in staff's comments to the additional submittals.
Sure. Again, I'm not going to state my opinions on piers on exposed shorelines, because I think I've said that quite enough. And I certainly made it part of the record of this hearing in a previous session. I think Alan keeps telling us that this is a completely armored shoreline, which I absolutely agree with. Completely armored shorelines are armored for a reason, so that they don't go anywhere. So we're being asked, and this is not a value statement. It's what I understand as being the commission is being asked to build a stick and timber structure off of a shoreline with no real protections, and the shoreline to which it's making landfall is completely armored, which indicates to me that this shoreline is extremely dynamic without the armoring, and the beach wash is totally cobbled, which indicates a significant amount of wave action that removes sand from the shoreline. So that's my understanding of the setting of this. Now, I will acknowledge that we did receive a letter yesterday morning from a structural engineer indicating that he's reviewed the site and the pier and feels that the dock is survivable. I think he used the word survivability in winter storms. That report was received yesterday. We typically need to receive those reports the Thursday before a hearing. If it's an added item, that's just a record. That report was in fact stamped by the engineer. Alan and I have gone around a little bit on this. Alan and I have probably the same expertise in coastal assessment. We can observe things that we see, but a coastal assessment should be done by a qualified coastal scientist, of which neither he nor I are. We probably want to be dangerous on this. So we have yet to see something for this particular site. Alan makes a reference to a Ruthman report that was done for 7 Turn Lane, which at that point I said I thought was understated for 7 Turn Lane. And that was prior to the 23rd storm. And the 23rd storm on the same shoreline, somewhat north of the Turn Lane site, the Wayner dock was damaged. We don't really have any hydrodynamic data provided to ascertain the actual impacts in the area. However, I don't know that a real hydrodynamic report is necessarily required here. I think there's enough said about the shoreline by its existing condition. Let's see. I think that the commission could, in their judgment, issue a permit for this dock. But if they were to do that, and I'm not sure you're prepared to do that just yet, and that would be in the form of a standard order, I would add the following conditions. An anchored floating boom with silt curtain shall be deployed and maintained throughout the construction period to completely isolate the project work area from the open bay. 2, all landslide construction work shall be segregated from the down gradient jurisdictional wetland resources with properly installed and maintained staked and entrenched hay bales or wattles and silt fence along the lawn edge and extend 50 feet north and south of the proposed dock landfall. 3, barge grounding shall be avoided throughout the construction should offshore work be implemented. 4, since the project area is mapped as shellfish habitat and its footprint is a direct impact to land containing shellfish, and based on the Harbor Master Shellfish Constable's recommendations, the commission shall require a one-time payment to the town's dedicated shellfish seed gift account. The commission considers a density of 35 quahog Mercenaria seed per square foot at $70 per 1,000 seed over 700 square feet sufficient to mitigate the resource habitat loss, totaling to a one-time payment of $1,700 to the town's dedicated shellfish seed account as administered by the Harbor Master and Shellfish Constable. 5th, given the location of the proposed dock along a high energy exposed shoreline reach and as currently allowed in section 10, security in the local bylaw, the commission in its discretionary authority shall require the applicant to post a performance bond to protect the public interest should this proposed dock fail. That proposed bond shall be in the amount of $3,000 based on a calculation for cleanup and disposal costs from public property as per the DPW by the town and with a small contingency at a rate of $17 per square foot. And those would be my comments and recommendations thus far.
Thank you, Mark. Alan, do you want to respond to any of the comments?
I totally agree with those suggested conditions of the project.
Okay, thank you. Do any commissioners have any questions of the applicant or of staff? Seeing none, I'll open it up to anyone in the audience that wants to be heard on this application. Seeing none, hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
Moved.
Second.
Seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
No opposition being seen or heard. That motion passes unanimously. Commissioners, what is your pleasure on this request?
Make a motion for a standard order of conditions according to the plans submitted and incorporating the 5 additional conditions as outlined by Mark Garrett.
A second on that motion.
Second.
We have a motion seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Hearing no opposition, that motion passes unanimously. We're now moving on to the 4th public hearing. It's on DEP file 15-2662 from Pamela Donnelly and Timothy Mahoney to demolish a house, cottage, repair, upgrade septic system, construct a 1-bedroom apartment over the garage, remove a portion of gravel driveway and wetland resource improvement located in the buffer zone to an isolated wetland and green, excuse me, vegetated wetland on land described as map 13, lot 16. It's otherwise known as 505 Horse Neck Road. Entertain a motion to waive the reading.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing no opposition, that motion passes unanimously. And I guess, Alan, you're it on this one too.
Yes, I am. And thank you again, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. Just for the record, my name is Alan Haru, civil engineer. And I want to start by correcting the address. The address is 507 Horse Neck Road. Tim and Pam Mahoney live at 505, the adjacent property. And
Okay.
but the house lot that we're dealing with is 507 Horse Neck Road. So if I
Was the
could, I'd
map
like,
and lot correct, Alan?
let's see.
Map 13, lot 16.
Yes,
Okay.
okay. So let me share my screen. So for this public hearing, I'm here on behalf of Pamela Donnelly and Timothy Mahoney, owners of a single-family house lot at 507 Horse Neck Road. We propose to demolish an existing house and also a part or most of a detached cottage leaving the garage. So here's the existing house, here's the existing detached cottage, and we're going to leave this garage. We also propose to remove a portion of the existing gravel driveway and parking area and construct a segment of gravel driveway in the buffer zone to wetland. So this portion of the existing gravel driveway, there's a driveway that comes up to serve Tim and Pam's house at 505 Horse Neck Road, and there's sort of a loop off of the main driveway into 507 Horse Neck Road. So we want to remove this portion of gravel driveway and replace it with loam and seed. This portion of the driveway is now just an earthen driveway. It's a beaten path. It's a 2-track. We want to put a 12-foot wide gravel surface on this portion of the driveway. This little bit is in the buffer zone, and this area here is in the buffer zone to wetland. Also, we propose to renovate the detached garage near the isolated vegetated wetland with a 1-bedroom apartment in the upper level and install a new subsurface sewage disposal system in accordance with the State Environmental Code Title V. So I should have pointed out that the isolated wetland area is this area here that was delineated by Dave Bichette. And then we have a bordering vegetated wetland along the westerly side of the lot and across the driveway on the southerly side of the lot. So those are the resource areas that were all delineated by David Bichette, a wetland scientist. And what we're going to do, this is an existing garage, and all we're going to do is renovate it and put a 1-bedroom apartment on the upper level with a small deck porch. And as I said, we're going to take the wastewater from that 1-bedroom apartment, put it in a 1,500-gallon septic tank, 1,000-gallon pump chamber, and pump it to a raised septic system more than 100 feet away from the well and more than 100 feet away from bordering vegetated wetland. The record plan that you're looking at is entitled Subsurface Sewage Disposal System, dated December 6, 2022, revised January 5th, 2023, with minor comments from the Dartmouth Board of Health staff. As I mentioned, the wetland resource areas were delineated by Dave Bichette, wetland consultant, and the site is located within mapped habitat for state protected rare wildlife species. We received a letter from Everrose Schluter, PhD, Assistant Director, Mass Department of Fisheries and Wildlife, Natural Heritage and Endangered Species Program, dated January 3rd, 2023, which states that the project as currently proposed will not adversely affect the actual resource habitat and will not result in a prohibited take of rare wildlife species. Lastly, 5 months ago, Pam and Tim retained a contractor to cut a tree near an overhead power line serving their property. This tree was located alongside their driveway in the isolated vegetated wetland. A few other trees were cut down around the garage and the cottage in the buffer zone to wetland, and in response, an enforcement order was issued. David Pichette prepared a project narrative dated December 6th, 2022, part of this notice of intent after the fact, to explain the proposed mitigation for this wetland violation. Recently, I spoke to Dave and Mark Garrett, and we agreed to plant 5 additional winterberry or high bush blueberry shrubs in the isolated vegetated wetland. These shrubs shall be nursery stock plant material and 3 to 5 gallon pot-sized plants. The DEP file number is SE 15-2662. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions that the commission has.
Thank you, Alan. Mark, I would be curious to hear staff's comments on this application.
Well, I think Alan was fairly accurate in what he described. I would only change one thing. We were asked to go out and review a wetland line, I believe, under a wetland A1 request, a previously delineated line by Dave Pichette, which we largely agreed upon, both the BVW line and the isolated, or what I would call a freshwater wetland under the local bylaw. Upon that inspection, I noticed the tree crew removing some trees in and around the isolated freshwater wetland. I told them the trees were largely down at that point. I said, you're going to stop work right now because there's no permit for that. So from my point of view, the emphasis is an after the fact notice of intent for the unauthorized cutting of vegetation within jurisdiction, which Alan is correct. We have discussed, Dave Pichette has put together a planting program, which I am in agreement with. And given the fact that the amount of violation was relatively small in surface area, I said, if you want to include the development proposals as part of this, the garage renovation, the demos, the driveway improvements and the like, I would be happy to include those in a combined notice of intent. But my initial intent was we're going to fix the problem out there, as minimal as it was before it got more out of hand. Having said that, I am in a position to recommend the issuance of a standard order of conditions 1 through 42 as per the plan dated January 5th. 3 was that the right date?
Lock up this wing. Oh,
Alan, that was the right date, right? The 5th.
Yes, correct.
Right.
January 5th, 2023.
23, yeah. Along with the project narrative dated December 6th by Dave Pichette, with all planting completed by April 28th, 2023. And also adding to that, 5 additional wetland shrubs, winterberry and or high bush blueberry, 3 to 5 gallon pots or balls shall be included as part of the planting plan as discussed with Dave Pichette and Alan Haru.
Thank you, Mark. Do any commissioners have any questions at this point? I don't see any. Is there anyone, excuse me, in the audience that wants to be heard on this application? I don't see any. Don't hear any. So at this juncture, I'll entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Motion made.
Second.
Give a second on the motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? No opposition being heard or seen. That motion passes unanimously. Commissioners, what is your pleasure on this request?
Make a motion for a standard order of conditions as per the plan dated January 5th, 2023. And also the project narrative dated December 6th, 2022. With all plantings to be completed by April 28th, 2023 and incorporate Mr. Garrett's additional conditions
That were referenced in his report.
that were referenced in his report.
Okay, do we have a second on that motion?
Second.
We have a motion seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing no opposition, that motion passes unanimously. We'll move on to the next. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
So the next public hearing is a public hearing on DEP file 15-2663 from David and Wendy Dodson to address a violation that involved cutting trees within a BVW, in the buffer zone to BVW, and within land subject to coastal storm flowage. Also proposed is the removal of remaining storm damaged trees, cut trees, and invasive plant species. It's on land described as map 113, lots 28 and 29. It's otherwise known as 23 High Street. I'm going to obtain a motion to waive the reading.
So moved.
Second.
With a second on the motion, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
No opposition being seen or heard. That motion passes unanimously. Is there someone here this evening on behalf of the applicant?
Yes, my name is Dave Pichette. Thank you, members of the commission. I'm here representing the applicants, David and Wendy Dodson. And I'll share my screen to show the site plan here. So as was mentioned, this notice of intent is in response to a violation that occurred at this property, which involved the cutting of trees in bordering vegetated wetland within the buffer zone to the wetland and also within a coastal flood zone. It was 3 to 4 trees cut within the wetland and a couple others in the buffer zone to the wetland. And so what this notice of intent is aimed to do is to respond to the enforcement that was issued to restore the altered wetland. So this project proposes to plant 5 trees within the wetland as indicated here. There's 5 yellow birch trees proposed in these locations. The locations of where the trees were cut in the wetland are represented by these indicators here and here. And so that is what is proposed to restore the altered wetlands. There's also some debris piles from the cutting work that was done that were left in the wetlands, and that obviously is also all going to be removed as part of the project, what has not already been. Also proposed as part of this application is to do some work to remove some other storm damaged trees that exist within this cross-hatched area right here. There's a big cluster of some very large trees that were uprooted in a previous storm and are just still essentially hanging there. And they're certainly not going to ever come back, so they need to be removed. And some of that work would potentially require a bucket truck because they are in a bit of a tangle with one another. But all that work can be done from the upland side. There would be no reason or need to have anything within the wetland area. In terms of the planting of the trees in the wetland area, all of that work is to be done by hand. There would be no need, again, to have any equipment or machinery within that area. As far as the remaining storm damaged trees that are proposed to be removed, all of that debris would be removed for the site with the exception of whatever firewood might need to be or want to be retained by the property owner if that's the case, and that would be stored in an area outside of the buffer zone to the wetland, if that's even proposed to be retained. A couple other things that were proposed as part of this is there's 2 standing dead trees roughly in this area here. They're long dead, and the owner simply would like to remove those. They would just be cut and the stumps left in the ground, flush cut to the ground. There would be no stump removal proposed. And there's also a couple of large dead limbs that have fallen previously in this area that the owner also would like to remove at the same time. There's an existing stump at this location that the owner simply would like to flush cut with the ground and just leave it in place. So that's generally the name of the proposal. The last thing that's being asked for too is there is some bittersweet in different parts of this whole area here. And the owner wants to have the ability to be able to hand cut bittersweet out of the remaining trees so that those trees don't become engulfed by the bittersweet. So that would also be requested as part of this application. But again, this application is being filed first and foremost to address the violation at the site. And along with that, the other work that I've mentioned is also being proposed as part of this application. So that's what I have at this point. If Commission has any questions, I'd be happy to try to answer them.
Thank you. Mark, I'd be curious to hear staff's comments on this application.
I think Dave actually covered it pretty well, fairly accurately. This is an after the fact response to a violation. I will acknowledge that the trees that are being requested, the storm damaged trees, are not only not coming back, but they do pose a hazard to some of the structures if they go down. So I think it is a reasonable request to have them removed. I think it's appropriate to ask that before you remove them when they're in jurisdiction, as opposed to removing them and then getting caught in the act and then having to respond in a violation format. The debris on the ground, yes, certainly can be removed by hand. I would also say that I have no problem with the bucket truck, as most of the area will be lawned area as opposed to any kind of real natural growth. I would ask that the bucket truck be minimized to only when it's necessary. All debris should be removed by hand. Bittersweet is considered a nuisance invasive. I know people love it around the holidays for decorating, but within the guise of the wetland, it can do more damage than its aesthetic value is worth. So its removal, again, pruning by hand, is not an unreasonable request. And the stumps can be flush cut to the ground, but I would not want them to be stumped, so to speak, and ground out. The other issue regarding the firewood, that's fine, but I want any and all processing of wood to occur outside of the buffer zone. I don't want to have stuff laying around and, prompting other activities. So if the wood needs to be processed, that's fine. Whether the wood comes from the buffer zone or not, but I want all wood processing outside of the buffer zone. Having said that, I'm prepared to recommend a standard order of conditions 1 through 42 as per the plan dated 12/16/2022 by Boucher and Associates, and the project narrative dated 12/30 by Dave Pichette, with all planting work completed by April 28th. And then the conditions regarding the use of the bucket truck, no wood processing within the buffer zone or wetlands would be included as added conditions.
Thank you, Mark. Dave, do you have any response to what you heard Mark advise us?
No, I'm in agreement with all of Mark's comments, so I have no further comment on it.
Thank you. Commissioners, do you have any questions of the applicant or Mark? Seeing and hearing none, I'll now open it to anyone in the audience that wants to be heard on this application. Seeing and hearing none, I'll now entertain a motion to close the public portion of this hearing.
Mr. Chairman, real quick, correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Dotson, did you raise your hand?
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure, Dave.
Sorry, thank you.
Oh, thanks, Nat. I want to make sure there's that one tree that I think is in the buffer zone by the garage where the stump is sort of half ground, and I want to make sure we don't do anything that's in violation there.
Let me just pull this plan back up here. Are you talking about up in this area?
Yes.
Okay.
When Mark came and asked us to stop, that stump was kind of like half ground down. So I just want to know what we're supposed to do with it so I don't make a mistake.
Flush cut it to the ground. Like the other ones.
Okay. And then the second question, then I'll back out here, is where you have it down kind of in the lower where it says stumps from previously cut trees.
Yes.
Okay, so that's on the lawn. So are we able to, cut that down so we can have lawn over it?
You can flush cut them down to the ground.
But we can't have any grass over it?
Well, now you're talking about, yeah, you can put grass over it. I mean, you'd have to loam over the top of it, but if you're proposing to stump them, then that's a whole different activity. That's an earthwork activity, which requires a whole host of different restrictions. But yeah, if you want to top dress that, that's fine.
Okay, I just want to make sure we have it
But
right.
normal landscaping in the buffer zone is allowed.
Okay,
I don't chase after people cutting their lawns because their lawn is in the buffer zone. I mean, that's an exempted activity. Placing a course of loam over the top and seeding it with lawn, that's fine.
okay. Thanks, Mark.
All righty. Does anyone else, while it's the public hearing is still open, anyone else have any questions or comments they want to be heard? And I'm sorry I missed you. So, yeah, so I don't see any now. So I'll entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Second,
Seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? No opposition being seen or heard. That motion passes unanimously. Commissioners, what's your pleasure on this request?
Make a motion for a standard order of conditions. Those are conditions 1 through 42, as per the plans dated December 16th, 2022, and the project narrative also dated. Was the project narrative dated the 16th as well, Mark?
No,
Or the 30th?
December 30th.
Okay, so as per the plan dated December 16th, 2022, and the project narrative dated December 30th, 2022, with all plantings to be completed by April 28th, 2023, and incorporate additional conditions as referenced by Mark Garrett.
second,
Seconded motion. All in favor?
aye,
Opposed? No opposition being seen or heard. That motion is unanimous. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Have a good night.
Thank you. Our sixth public hearing is public hearing on DEP file 15-2643. It's from Tim Lancaster on behalf of the town of Dartmouth Parks and Recreation to construct an 18,000 square foot off-leash recreation area with pervious walkways, a boardwalk and crushed stone access road for construction and future maintenance in the buffer zone to bordering vegetated wetlands on land described as map 72, lot 36, otherwise known as 443 Mill River Road. Entertain a motion, excuse me, to waive the reading.
So moved.
second,
Seconded motion, all in favor?
aye,
Opposed? Seeing and hearing none, that motion passes unanimously. And Bob, you're here on behalf of the applicant.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, Bob Rogers, GAF Engineering, on behalf of the applicant. We had a conference call a couple of weeks ago, myself, Mr. Garrett, Paul Duart from DPW, and Cody Haddad and Tim Lancaster. And we decided on a path forward, if you will. If I can share my screen.
Absolutely.
I'll pull up the updated plans. And so, the point of contention, if you will, was there an additional stormwater management, nitrogen, best management practice that could be added to the project? And so I guess after a healthy hour of discussion or so, it was decided that we would add a water quality swale to the project. Water quality swale is recognized for nitrogen removal. There's no real design quantity associated with this project because we don't have impervious surfaces. But based on EPA guidance and DEP guidance, a wet water quality swale, has an ability with check dams and so forth to provide nitrogen removal on a percentage basis, if you will. So the two major changes to these plans was the addition of a water quality swale for the full length of the path and boardwalk. And I'll get to a bigger view in a minute. And we've enhanced this ground cover restoration for the path that's being abandoned. So for the full length of where the pedestrians with their dogs would walk, and the area's potential for the dogs to do their business, if you will. There's an addition of a water quality swale with check dams. And this plan shows the enhanced restoration of ground cover, which was really not part of the discussion in the conference call, but it was a prior concern of Mark's that we were able to address. Just go to the detail sheet. Am I at the last one? There's a cross section of our wet. Okay, so we have level spreaders at the end of our water quality swales. We have check dam details, and I may just not be seeing it, but there's a detail on here of the wet swale. Okay, so there's a water quality swale cross section, and we've put it to the minimum requirements of the DEP handbook for wet swales, only to minimize the amount of tree clearing and earth disturbance that it's going to take to put this stormwater BMP in place. And so with that, I would defer to the commission and to Mark.
Mark, I'd be certainly interested in hearing your comments regarding the revisions to the proposal.
I really don't need to belabor this much more. I think that the engineer, Bob, has addressed my concerns and DPW's concerns to the best that they could, given the circumstances. And I applaud them for that. And I am prepared to recommend a standard order of conditions 1 through 40 and condition 42 as per the revised plan dated January 12th, 2023. I think that this is the best we can do out here. And I think it's a good effort, and I support it completely.
Thank you, Mark. Do any commissioners have any questions of the applicant or Mark? Seeing none, is anyone in the audience that wants to be heard on this request? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion to close the public portion of the hearing.
So moved.
Second.
It was seconded motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? No opposition being seen, excuse me, or heard. That motion passes unanimously. Commissioners, what's your pleasure on this request?
Make a motion for a standard order of conditions, conditions 1 through 40 and 42, as per the revised plans dated January 12th, 2023.
Do you have a second on that motion?
Second.
It was seconded motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? No opposition being seen or heard. That motion passes unanimously. Thank you, Bob.
Thank you all for your time.
Before you take off.
Yes, sir.
When I finish the order of conditions, I'm just going to hand them to Tim. Is that okay with you?
That's fine. I'll coordinate, we can record it electronically for the town, but if you want to that's fine. I'll coordinate with Tim. That'll
Okay.
work.
All
Thank
right.
you, Mark.
Okay, I don't know. It'll probably be Thursday or Friday that I get to it, but I think it'll be this week.
That's fine. you know,
Okay.
it's not a good construction season right now.
Oh, I
and
know, I know, I
we Got a
know.
little ways
All
to
right.
go.
Okay,
Thank
thank you.
Appreciate it.
That concludes our public hearings. We're moving on now to our items for discussion, and the first one are our bills, if we have any.
None.
That's easy. Then we have the update on the proposed regs for Title V and watershed permitting. Mark, I'll let you go
Yes.
through the items for discussion.
Okay, quick update. I'm not sure who was aware or not, but there was quite a large meeting at UMass Dartmouth Wednesday past. I think there were over 200 people there. Unfortunately, I couldn't be there, but Adam represented me. And it was a pretty healthy discussion. And it seems that they haven't made any kind of commitments, but there is some wavering as to how forceful DEP is going to be with the process. I think they ultimately still want to get to the objectives that they have, but they understand that this is not going to be an easy road, and they tried to take an easy path, and it's not working out quite as well for them as they had hoped. So we're continuing with that. Senator Mattigny and Representative Markey filed legislation to kind of slow the process down a little bit, because they felt that given the timing, late fall through the holidays, people just were not aware of this, and now people are becoming aware of it. I have also reached out to my local legislators, my delegation here in Plymouth, who were completely unaware of what was going on. They have been in contact with Representative Markey and have thrown their full support behind their efforts. So the select board is trying to get a regional type coalition of communities together to indicate not that they're opposed to what DEP is trying to do, they're opposed to the how it's being done. And they think that given the complexities of what's going on here, far more open discussion needs to be had, because at this point they're really, and everybody admits to this, they're foisting the whole responsibility on the homeowners with not so certain confidence in the results. So that's basically where that is. Second item is town forest trail work. We have a volunteer group, the Pathways group, with some users who want to go in and do some work in the town forest between Hicksville and Reed Roads to fix up some trails and possibly construct some bridges. I think they have some big ideas. They're good, but they have approached us on several times, and I brought in a previous proposal to your attention. The problem being they're working on town land. We don't have a procurement process. There are hold harmless requirements and liabilities. So I have finally gotten them directed to working with the town administrator to get him to authorize what they can and can't do. And once he does that, then we will sit down and look at their plans. I think it's going to be a phased approach as to what they're doing out there. My sense is that there will be some wetland permitting, but given the nature of the work, we probably can waive filing fees and the like for them. But since it's, you know, public work, but that's still out there. But if you hear anything about it, we are on top of it and working through the process. Update on wetland bylaw and regulation status. I just got today a copy of Mike's additional comments on the bylaws. I'm going to import them, and I'm going to get copies of that stuff out to the commission as quickly as I possibly can. I want to come back to this item, but we really need to set a date for a public hearing if we're going to do anything for Springtown meeting. And given the status of the inaccuracies of the regulations as per filing requirements and things of that nature, I think we really need to get on that and get that moving. So we'll come back to that, but I don't want to waste time with it right at the moment. I sat in on a discussion with members of DEP, Water Resources, and Solid Waste Division, along with Chris Michaud, 451 Highland Avenue, or as it's known, Double S Farm, which is immediately north of the rail. Well, it actually straddles the railroad tracks to the east of Highland Avenue. We approved a solar project out there probably 3 years ago. They have a request for an extension that we're going to be dealing with in the next month or so. However, that all notwithstanding, there have been some discharge issues and piggery in and around the wetland. And so it has gotten to the point now, because it's a state exempted activity, but they still need to comply with certain thresholds. Chris thought it would be good to bring the state in, so we're organizing a site visit out there. The state, myself, Chris, maybe a few others, to ascertain exactly what's going on out there. This is one of those sites that really is part of my protest of the process on the Title V regs, because we have no control over these sites. We have a hard time getting onto them, and they have state exemption allowances and things of that nature. And this is a great example of what's flying in the face. We're worried about nutrient loading, and we're trying to stop septic systems. Meanwhile, we've got a piggery discharging into a river, and it's kind of a difficult thing to handle. So we're working on that, and the state seems to be agreeable to working with us on that. We also have, just an FYI, Eversource has a vegetation management general permit that they work under to do vegetation management in their right of ways. We were noticed that they will be doing some of that work in the Dartmouth right of way, and just making you aware of that. And it is in compliance with their annual vegetation management permit that they re-up with the state all the time. Like to come back to the public hearing date, if we can settle on a public hearing date for the bylaw, because we have to advertise that and we have to post what we're going to be discussing. So at this point, I think we're pretty close on the bylaw. Regulations were a little farther off, but I think we'll be pretty close on that. My thought is that we really only have a month left. I'm pulling up my calendar right now. I mean, we have next week, which I believe Nat, you said you were available on the 31st, which is a Tuesday that we're not meeting, that I selected. Patty has indicated to me that she's available on the 21st of February, which may be as far out as we can go. And Jim Fitchett said that he was available on February 7th, which is our scheduled public hearing. And we were debating whether we wanted to do this hearing as part of a regularly scheduled meeting. Given the potential for discussion, it may eat up 2 nights if we do that. So that's where I stand right now. I need, we were talking about Mondays or Tuesdays, and I need some feedback so we can get this rolling.
Well, I'm available Monday, the 30th. Obviously, I think I mentioned the 31st was not good for me. I'm also available on February 2nd. Let's see.
That's a Thursday.
Yeah, I know. I just realized that.
That's okay. Well, I mean, if we have to do it on Thursday, we have to do it on Thursday. I mean,
I'm not inclined to want to put it on for a regularly scheduled meeting, just because it means that meeting will last an inordinately long time. And chances are we're going to be cutting short something. So I don't mind either the 6th, which would be the day before our regularly a meeting, or Monday the 13th. Wednesday, the 15th. I don't think I want to go much further than that week, which ends,
No, we really can't go much further than that.
but, so, aside from the 31st and our regular scheduled meeting date, I should be available. I don't see anything right now that looks like I couldn't do it. Yeah, I don't see anything, so I'd be available. That doesn't mean much if no one else is, but
Yeah, I'm not available next week. I can't do either the 30th or the 31st or anytime later in the week, and the 6th would be tough. But I could do the 7th or anytime. Obviously the 7th is our meeting, sorry. I could do that following week, the week of the 13th.
so let's just try to focus in on. So you said you're not available next week, is that correct, Kelly?
Correct, yeah. But again, you don't necessarily need me.
Well,
No, we do. I mean, we need everybody, really. I mean, this is
Okay.
those things. I understand it's hard, but we're now we're going to be discussing
excuse me.
and regulations that we all have to deal with. So, doing it with 4 people, yeah, we can make votes and all that stuff, but that's really not, I don't think it's in the commission's best interest. I'll do whatever you tell me to do, but I wouldn't advise against that.
So how does what is everyone's excuse me, availability for Thursday, the 9th?
I will not be here. I'll be on a plane that night.
Going someplace.
I'm
Going
coming
quick.
back from Minneapolis. Not
Can
any-
we rewind? Is anybody available on February 2nd? I know, Mike, you mentioned February 2nd.
I
Can't
am.
do that.
I'm-
Yeah, you said you were. That's a new date that's come up, but is everybody else available that day?
I'm available.
I'm good.
I'm not, but. if
Oh,
you
you're
get the-
not.
If you get the majority, yeah.
I can do February 2nd.
I'm good.
I'm available February 2nd.
What about February 13th?
Yeah, I'm available.
Mike, well, I'm going on dates that you gave me, Mike.
Yeah, okay, I'm available.
Okay, so Mike's available on the 13th. Kelly, you're available on the 13th.
Correct.
Nat,
I'm not in, I'm in Vermont that day. I might be able to join though, if it's Zoom.
yeah, it'll be Zoom.
So, yeah, I don't know what the internet's like where I'm gonna be, but yeah.
No
You gotta adjust the answer.
No connection may be a reality.
Yeah, I know.
Richard,
You call the date. I'm good on the 2nd and I'm good on the 13th. It's your call.
Nat, you're not good on the 13th?
Well, he's gonna try, he said, he's gonna be,
Is that the Vermont day?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I'm not gonna be at home. I have no idea what the internet's like at the house I'm gonna be at, but I theoretically can join.
Okay. Joe Burke, you're being very quiet here.
I'm available the 2nd, I believe the 13th. I'll be traveling around then. I don't have my plane tickets yet, but I believe I'm available 2nd and the 13th.
Okay. We don't know about Jim. We don't know about Patty.
I think the further out may be better for Patty. I'm not,
Yeah, oh, I agree. All right, what I'm looking at here is a general consensus that the 13th may be a workable date. Nat, you've got an issue with that, but hopefully we can resolve that. But that seems to be the most popular date that I've heard, from the group. So I will post that as an email to everybody so that we get an official sign off on that date. So then we can put together a legal ad and post it. And we might even put this on the new electronic digital sign in front of Town Hall.
Wow, that'll be so cool.
Wow, wouldn't that be so cool?
Finally made the big time.
I'm gonna have to pull my car over and get my phone out and take a picture.
Send it to me, will you, Mike?
Yeah, I'll do that, Richard.
Okay, so we've got some resolution on that. Okay, the last couple of items here. Couple of enforcement issues. 673 Tucker Road update. As you recall, we were pretty adamant about moving forward with litigation on that. I put together an email in which I copied the commission and I copied the owner and town council and Sean and everybody else. And I sent that out, I think the Wednesday morning. The Wednesday afternoon, there was a wetland consultant hired and on board. So we're moving forward with that. We're getting some response to that. It's actually going to be Steve Schmiel be doing the wetlands work, and I think that's a great choice. He's been very good in these enforcement response cases. So that's moving forward. You might hear something, 439 Rockadundy Road. Adam picked this one up. This is his first official action. Somebody's been dumping debris on the south side of Rockadundy Road opposite 439. We issued a notice, a violation letter to the two properties which are opposite this. We've ascertained who the person is and we've told them to get the stuff out. I'm letting Adam run with this one. So we'll see where that gets us. So if you hear about that, we are aware of that. We have our fingers on the pulses of a couple of other things. And I will keep you abreast when things are worthy of discussion. I mean, we're back and forth with people on insignificant things right now, but we're getting caught up, which is a good thing. I mean, unfortunately, with every two that we solve, we get three more. So, but we're getting resolutions, so that's a good thing.
I think so. And I think these two are classic examples where you stay on top of it. Sometimes the resolution actually is achieved.
Yeah, I mean, and the ones we handled tonight have been somewhat tough. It's been a lot of negotiating, more them complaining to me about what I want them to do, but it's like, hey, I didn't tell you to cut the trees down. And we're starting to get a lot of calls from people in proactive, like, I've got branches hanging over my property, but they're near the wetland. Can somebody come out and take a look so we can go out and look at them? We can give them some advice. We're not always going to make them file a notice of intent, for something, fairly reasonable. It's not going to, affect the wetlands at all. So.
Well, that's important, though, that people call in advance, because even that type of a response, it's good to know for them. It's good to know for us. So when you get a neighbor complaining that Joe's cutting the tree down, you could say, yeah, they already reported that. We went and looked. The
Yeah, that we're aware of it, and they're okay with that. We're okay with what they're doing. Yeah, and I don't know that we've solved that dilemma, but I'm starting to notice that people are being a little bit more aware. We're out and about. We're getting our, we don't have a lot of time to do it, but we do make an effort to get out on the ground and look at things and snoop around and see what's going on, and it seems to be working right now.
I agree. Okay, anything else, Mark? I have nothing else.
No, I'm all good at this point.
Good, so entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
It was seconded motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? No opposition? That motion passes unanimously. Have a good evening, everyone.
Take care, folks.
Night, everybody.
Take care. Be well.